Hi, this is Russ Traphagan. This is part of my interview process for Plattsburgh High School for strength and conditioning coach. We're going to do a breakdown of the power clean. Power clean is basically 3 lifts. You have a deadlift, you have a power pull, and you have a front squat. When you power clean is a very explosive movement to where you get triple extension out of the knees, hips, and shoulders. In order to do this lift properly, the athlete needs to have flexibility in the ankle joint, the knee, the hip, and in the wrist and elbows. If the athlete is lacking flexibility in these 3 areas, it will make them difficult for them to properly do this lift. It is important that you supervise your athletes to make sure and evaluate to make sure they have the ability to get into these positions. If they can't, then extra flexibility exercises, hip mobility exercises, wrist mobility exercises will need to be implemented on top of other workouts. You can also do other exercises to implement the same movement. So you're trying to get an explosive movement out of the athlete. So there is other exercises you can do for alternative, such as a dumbbell clean or a dumbbell snatch. You can also do box jumps to help get the same explosive movements without doing a power clean if you do not feel it's safe for the athlete to do. We're going to start breaking down the power clean. First, Brian is going to do basically a deadlift first. We would like to see Brian's hips down a little bit more, down closer to the green line. With that would bring his hips down to engage his quads more and raise his chest up. So he's going to be in a better postural position. In this position where Brian is, he's going to be using more lower back than I'd like to see. As Brian pulls, he's going to pull the bar directly up in the air. The bar should not come forward or backwards. It should go straight up and down. You can see that Brian has on his right side a little bit of a deficiency and imbalance because that side is not as high as the other side if you look at it. So ideally I would give him some more stabilization exercises to do on his right side to gain some strength in it. So we might be doing some plank poses. We might do some med ball exercises to where he could gain some strength mobility. Exercise bands would also be efficient for him. When Brian pulls up, he's going to go to the next phase. So the first phase he went through a deadlift. This phase he's going through a power pull. He's going to try to get the bar to come up as high as he can. In this case, he's using a lighter weight. Brian is close to a 300-pound power cleaner. And so with this one, he's probably going to bring the bar close to the chest height. If he had 250 pounds on or heavier weight, he's probably only going to get it a little bit above the belly button. Basically, the athlete is moving his body around the bar. We're trying to get explosive movement to get the bar moving up as fast as I can, as high as I can. So this power pull will work on that to where he's going to pull it and get extension up. You can see down here in his feet that he's up on his toes now. Shoulders are coming up closer to the ears. So we're getting momentum on the bar. As Brian pulls, he's going to maneuver his body underneath the bar and he's going to do what we call a rack. In this case, the arms and the wrists are not holding the bar, the deltoids are. If Brian does not get his elbows up, the bar with heavier weight will roll out forward away from the athlete. So it's very important that the athlete has wrist flexibility and elbow motion so he can get the bar up to the deltoids, and now he's in a front squat position. To work on these different positions, you can break the power clean down to where we were front squatting. We were working on power poles. You can work on hang cleans. So there's several different exercises you can do to work on these different movements. Go through again. It's going to pull, 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 pull. Elbows underneath, elbows up high, front squat position. So deadlift, power pull, and power clean or front squat to finish it out. If I had an athlete that was lacking rear rocker mobility in the ankle joint, I have exercises that we can implement on top of that he or she could take home with them, and different movements. And basically what we need to work on is the anterior compartment, so anterior tibialis, the top of the extensor muscles of the foot are weak, and they have an imbalance probably 95% of the time. There could be 5% of the time where they have a structural nodule across the subtalar joint that would be causing some implementation to where they can't get rear rocker to come across. Most of the time it is a muscle imbalance. So we would work on strengthening the anterior compartment of the leg, the top of the foot, with some other functional exercises. To get knee flexion and hip flexion is basically getting into the squat position. We could do that with some active release with a foam roller. We could also use a stationary object to get the athlete to work on squatting down, to getting below parallel and getting used to being in that position with their chest up. We can simply do body squats. There's a lot of different exercises we could do to implement. For wrist flexibility and elbow flexibility is basically getting them used to holding the bar in that position. And so we may simply take a bar or a PCV pipe and just work on getting them into that position. You can also take a band, or the athlete can take and pull their own elbow and their hand back, just working on flexibility. Not too complicated to help fix. Usually when you try to get an adaptation, it usually takes about 6 weeks to get that adaptation. The other thing we could do, if I still had an athlete that struggled with mobility in those areas, you're not going to want to stick him with a straight bar. We would probably modify and go to a dumbbell. That way it takes stress off of those joints, have him do a dumbbell clean. We can also work on explosive movements by doing either different plyometric movements too. Box jumps would be beneficial, especially to do them in coordination with a squat. So they would squat first, and then they would come and do a plyometric box jump. If you notice in the first few weeks of the sample workout I gave you in the booklet, you will see that my program is built upon not doing the power clean initial until I get evaluation of the athletes. Once I got evaluation of the athletes, then we would start implementing the power clean. Some might go first on the power clean, others might do other movements until we get those motions down. But it's simple to do explosive movements with your core power lifts or strength lifts, such as squat and bench press. Ideally, those 3 coordination lifts would be the ideal thing. So squat, bench, and power clean would be my 3 main movements that I would focus on. We would be technicians. It's important to do those lifts correctly when you do them. Thank you for your time.